Hello everyone, I am your educator Arya. Welcome to Apita Sharma classes. Today we are starting a new crash course on environment and ecology. Before we start, here is a small announcement. Subscribe to Apita Sharma classes for daily news analysis, economic MCQ series, Indian polity classes, strategy related classes for UPSC CSE and much more. You can join our Telegram channel Simplifying UPSC with Ease for class updates and notes. Also, Arpita ma'am is taking live classes on Unacademy Plus. You can use Sharma20 to get 10% discount. So let's get started with the first session of this crash course. First, we will discuss about ecology. Ecology is the scientific study of the relationship of the living organisms with each other and with their environment. So it is the study of the relationship between living organisms with living organisms with each other and with their environment also. That is known as ecology. Environment. Environment is the sum total of living, non-living components, influences and events surrounding organisms. So it is the sum total of living, non-living components and influences and events surrounding an organism. There are two components for the environment, biotic and abiotic. Biotic includes green plants, parasites, animals, etc. And abiotic includes energy, radiation, water, etc. Levels of organizations. In levels of organizations, we will first discuss about individual. So what is an individual? Individual has the ability to act or function independently. So individual has the ability to act or function independently. It is not dependent on any other organism. Next is population. Population is a group of organisms, usually of the same species, occupying a defined area during a specific time. So it is a group of organisms. Population is a group of organisms. It is usually of the same species. It is usually of same species occupying a defined area during a specific time. So it is known as population. Next is community. So individuals of any one species depend on individual of different species with which they actively interact. It will interact in different ways. So this interaction between one species and another species is called community. Next level of organization is the ecosystem. An ecosystem is defined as a structural and functional unit of biosphere, consisting of community of living beings and the physical environment, both interacting and exchanging materials between them. It includes plants, trees, animals, fish, birds, microorganisms, water, soil, and people. So, ecosystems is defined as a structural and functional unit of a biosphere. It consisting of community of living beings and physical environment which will both interact and exchange material between them. Ecosystem will vary greatly in size and elements, but each is functioning unit of nature. Everything that lives in an ecosystem is dependent on other species. So everything in the ecosystem is dependent on other species and elements that are also part of the ecological community. If one part of an ecosystem is damaged or disappears, it has an impact on everything else. If something happens to one part of an ecosystem, or if whether it is damaged or whether it disappears, it has an impact on everything else. So this is ecosystem. We will discuss about the structure, functions, about ecosystem on our next class in detail. So let's move on to the next slide. Ecotone. Ecotone is a zone of junction between two or more diverse ecosystems. For example, the mangrove forest represents an ecotone between marine and terrestrial ecosystem. So, ecotone is a zone of junction. It is a zone of junction between two or more diverse ecosystems. So, it is a zone of junction that is known as ecotone. It is between two or more diverse ecosystems. For example, mangrove forest. It represents an ecotone between marine and terrestrial ecosystem, right? So, mangrove forest is an example for ecotone. Other examples are grassland, estuary and riverbank. So, there is some characteristics about ecotone. It may be very narrow or quite wide. It can be very narrow or quite wide. It has the conditions intermediate to the adjacent ecosystems. Hence, it is a zone of tension. It is a zone of tension because it has the conditions intermediate to the adjacent, both two ecosystems which are intermediate, which are adjacent. Okay, it has the conditions intermediate to the adjacent ecosystems. For example, in mangrove forest, it can have the characteristics of both marine and terrestrial ecosystem. It will experience the conditions intermediate between marine and terrestrial ecosystem. So, it is a zone of tension. It is linear as it shows progressive increase in species composition of one incoming community and a simultaneous decrease in species of the other outgoing adjoining community. So it shows increase in species composition of one incoming community and a simultaneous decrease in species of the other outgoing adjoining community. A well-developed ecotones contains some organisms which are entirely different from that of the adjoining community. Sometimes the number of species and the population density of some of the species is much greater in this zone than their community. This is called edge effect. So this edge effect refers to the changes in population or community structures that occur at the boundary of two habitats, that is ecotone. So this is known as edge effect. And the organisms which occur primarily or most abundantly in this zone are known as edge species. Niche. A niche is the unique functional role or place of a species in an ecosystem. It is a description of all the biological, physical and chemical factors that a species need to survive, stay healthy and reproduce. A niche is unique for a species, which means no two species have exact identical niches. Niche play an important role in the conservation of organisms. If we have to conserve a species in its native habitat, we should have the knowledge about the niche requirements of the species and should ensure that all requirements of the niche are fulfilled. Niche represents the unique functional role and position of a species in its habitat. Okay. The functional characteristics of a species in its habitat is referred as niche. So there is a difference between habitat and niche. Habitat of a species is like the address, whereas niche can be thought of as a profession. So a niche is a unique for a species, while many species share the habitat, and no two species in a habitat can have the same niche. This is because of the competition with one another until one is displaced. So niche is the profession or the activities and responses of the species. And if you have to conserve the species in its native habitat, we should have the much knowledge about the requirements of the niche of the species and should ensure that all requirements of this niche is fulfilled. Okay. The terrestrial part of the biosphere is divisible into enormous region called biomes, which are characterized by climate, vegetation, animal life and general soil type. So the terrestrial part of the biosphere can be divided into enormous region called biomes, which are characterized by specific climate, vegetation, animal life and general soil type. So a biome can be defined as a large biological community or an ecosystem where different types of living organisms, including plants, animals, birds, insects and humans, are used to living in a certain type of climate. The world comprises a huge diversity of the types of environments which are divided and grouped into different types of biomes. Climate determines boundaries of the biomes and the abundance of plants and animals in each one of them. So we are going to discuss some biomes and region and the flora and fauna found here. First is tundra. It is found in north and southmost region of the world. Stunted shrubs, lichen, mosses and sedges, reindeer, Arctic fox, polar bear, snowy owl, etc. are found here. Taiga or boreal forest is found in northern Europe, Asia, North America. Spruce, pines and firs, birds, hawks, fur-bearing carnivores, Siberian tiger, etc. are found here. Temperate deciduous forest. Central and southern Europe, Eastern North America, Western China, New Zealand, Japan, etc. Beech, oak, maple, cherry, vertebrates and invertebrates are found here. Tropical rainforest, equatorial regions. 40% of the world's plant and animal species are found in this tropical rainforest. animals and epiphytic plants are concentrated in the canopy of tree top zones. Savanna, it is found in Africa. Grass, trees, fire-resisting thorn shrubs, antelopes, buffaloes, zebras, elephants, rhinoceros, cheetah, hyena, mongoose, rodents, etc. are found here. Grassland, North America and Ukraine. Grass, bison, cattle, antelope, rodent, prairie dog, wolves are found here. Deserts are found in continental interiors, cactus, euphorbias, sagebrush, reptiles, small mammals and birds. Okay. So these are the different names of biomes in the region and flora and fauna found in this region. Okay. Next is biosphere. Biosphere is a part of the earth where life can exist. Okay. Biosphere represents a highly integrated and interacting zone comprising of atmosphere air, hydrosphere water and lithosphere land. So biosphere is the part of the earth where life exists, and biosphere represents integrated and interacting zone comprising of air, water and land. So this figure represents biosphere. So it interacts with each other. Atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere interacts with each other. So it is an interacting zone and it is the part where life exists. Food chain is the sequence of organisms that feed on one another. Form food chains. Okay, food chains are the sequence of organisms that feed on one another. There are two types, grazing food chain and detritus food chain. So grazing food chain starts by the autotrophs, that are producers, plants, by photosynthesis, and detritus food chain start or begin with the dead organic matter. Next is food web. A food web illustrates all possible transfers of energy and nutrients among the organisms in an ecosystem, whereas a food chain traces only one pathway of the food. So food chain traces only one pathway of the food, and food web illustrates all the possible transfers of energy and nutrients among the organisms in an ecosystem. The food web provides more than one alternative for food to most of the organisms in an ecosystem and therefore increases their chances of survival. So this figure represents a food web. Next is ecological pyramids. The steps of trophic levels expressed in a diagrammatic way are referred to as ecological pyramids. So it is a graphical representation of the relationship between the different living organisms at different trophical levels. So we will discuss about this in the next class in detail. There are three types of pyramids: pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass and pyramid of energy. Bioaccumulation. So what is this bioaccumulation? Bioaccumulation is the accumulation of substances such as pesticides or other chemicals in an organism. It refers to how pollutants enter a food chain. In bioaccumulation, there is an increase in the concentration of the pollutant from the environment to the first organism in a food chain. So bioaccumulation is how pollutants enter a food chain. It refers to how these pollutants enter the food chain. Next is biomagnification. Biomagnification refers to the tendency of pollutants to concentrate as they move from one trophic level to the next. So it refers to the tendency of the pollution to concentrate as they move from one trophic level to the next trophic level. Thus, biomagnification, there is an increase in the concentration of pollutant from one link in a food chain to another. So there will be an increase in the concentration of pollutant from one link to the another link. The pollinator and the flowers both species are benefited. Okay. Commensalism. One species benefits, the other is unaffected. Example, cow dung provides food and shelter to dung beetles and the beetles have no effect on the cows. So one species benefit and the other is unaffected. In competition, both species are harmed by the interaction. In predation and parasitism, one species benefits and the other is harmed. In ammensilism, one species is harmed and the other is unaffected. And in neutralism, no benefit or harm to the species. Okay. Biogeochemical cycle. First one is carbon cycle. Carbon cycle is the process where carbon compounds are interchanged. Okay. So in carbon cycle, plants use this carbon for photosynthesis and these plants are consumed by the animals. And by the respiration and on the decomposition, when these animals die, the carbon will go into the lithosphere or the soil and it will come back as carbon in the atmosphere. Okay. And the fossils and fossil fuels are used by the factories and the combustion or the industries and the fossil fuel, due to fossil fuel combustion, this carbon is released into the atmosphere. And this carbon is again used for photosynthesis by these producers. Okay, thus carbon cycle will occur. Nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle is a biogeochemical cycle. The first process is nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixing bacteria will convert nitrogen into ammonia. Okay. And the next process is nitrification. This is the process by which ammonium is converted into nitrates by bacteria. The plants absorb these nitrates. Through assimilation, only plants get the nitrogen. Okay, nitrogen in the soil. Only plants get this nitrogen. And ammonification is the process of decay. Okay, when a plant or animal expires or dies, decomposes, turn the nitrogen back into ammonium, so it go back to the nitrogen cycle. This is all about nitrogen cycle. Phosphorus cycle. So what is phosphorus cycle? Phosphorus cycle is a biogeochemical process that involves the movement of phosphorus through the lithosphere, hydrosphere and biosphere. So it involves the movement of phosphorus through lithosphere, hydrosphere and biosphere. Phosphorus is an important element for all living organisms. The phosphorus cycle takes place through 4 steps: by weathering and by the absorption of these plants, absorption by animals and the return to the environment through decomposition. Phosphorus is found in rocks and due to weathering, this phosphorus will come into the soil and this is absorbed by plants and the animals consume this. So, absorption of plants and absorption of animals take place and by decomposition, this will return to the environment. Okay, so this is phosphorus cycle. Ecological succession. Succession occurs when a series of communities replace one another. So, when a series of communities replace one another due to large-scale destruction, either natural or man-made, it is known as ecological succession. This process continues. One community replaces another community until a stable, mature community develops. This process continues till a stable, mature community develops. Succession is a progressive series of changes which leads to the establishment of a stable climax community. Succession is characterized by the following: increased productivity, shift of nutrients from the reservoirs, increased diversity of organisms with increased niche development, and a gradual increase in the complexity of food webs. So what are the characteristics of this succession? Succession is characterized by increased productivity, shift of nutrients from the reservoirs, increased diversity of organisms, increased niche development, and gradual increase in the complexity of food webs. So, succession is a process by which one community replaces the another community and it will lead to a stable, mature community. Deforestation. Deforestation is the indiscriminate felling of trees as a result of urbanization, industrialization, mining operations and use of wood for domestic and other purposes that have caused heavy depletion of forests. Okay, so this is known as deforestation. Desertification is a main problem. Desertification is a main problem faced by desert adjoining areas which stretches across parts of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Punjab and Haryana. And the causes of desertification. Desertification is a process by which a land which turns into desert. And the causes are population pressure, increase in cattle population or overgrazing, increased agriculture, development activities and deforestation. Next is dissolved oxygen. In aquatic ecosystem, oxygen is dissolved in water, where its concentration varies constantly depending on the factors that influence the input and output of oxygen in water. In fresh water, the average concentration of dissolved oxygen is 0.0010%, also expressed as 10 parts per million or 10 ppm, by weight, which is 150 times lower than the concentration of oxygen in an equivalent volume of air. So, dissolved oxygen is the oxygen which is dissolved in water in simple terms. So, its concentration varies. In fresh water, average concentration is 10 parts per million, which is 150 times lower than the concentration of oxygen which is found in equivalent volume of air. Oxygen enters the aquatic ecosystem through air-water interface. Okay, it enters the aquatic ecosystem through air-water interface and by the photosynthetic activities of the aquatic plants. Therefore, the quantity of dissolved oxygen present in an ecosystem depends on the rate at which the aforesaid two processes occur. Dissolved oxygen escapes the water body through air-water interface and through respiration of organisms. The amount of dissolved oxygen retained in water is also influenced by temperature. Oxygen is less soluble in warm water. Oxygen is less soluble in warm water. Warm water also enhances decomposer activity. So, there will be less amount of oxygen in warm water. So, temperature affects the dissolved oxygen. Therefore, increasing the temperature of a water body increases the rate at which oxygen is depleted from water. So, when temperature increases, oxygen is depleted from water. When the dissolved oxygen falls below 3 to 5 ppm, many aquatic organisms are likely to die. And many aquatic organisms are likely to die when the dissolved oxygen level falls below 3 to 5 ppm, 3 to 5 parts per million. Eutrophication. What is this eutrophication? Eutrophication can be defined as the addition of artificial or non-artificial substances to a freshwater system. That is, eutrophication is a syndrome of ecosystem response to the addition of artificial or natural nutrients such as nitrates, phosphates through fertilizer, sewage, etc. that fertilize the aquatic ecosystem. It will fertilize the aquatic ecosystem which is not desirable. It is primarily caused by the leaching of phosphate and or nitrate containing fertilizers from agricultural lands into lakes or rivers. This figure represents the eutrophication process. It is mainly due to fertilizer runoff and fertilizer leaching into the freshwater ecosystem. The growth of green algae, which we see in the lake surface layer, is the physical identification of eutrophication. Some algae and blue-green bacteria thrive on the excess ions, and population explosion covers almost entire surface layer is known as algal bloom. This growth is unsustainable, however, as algal bloom covers the surface layer, it restricts the penetration of sunlight. As algal bloom covers the surface layer. Diffusion of gas from atom. Oxygen is required by all respiring animals in the water and it is replenished by the diffusion and photosynthesis of green plants. The oxygen level is already low because of the population explosion and further oxygen is taken up by microorganisms which feed off the dead algae during decomposition process. Oxygen level is already low. because of the population explosion, and the further oxygen is taken up by these microorganisms which feed off the dead algae during decomposition process. So oxygen level is decreased. Due to reduced oxygen level, fishes and other aquatic organisms will suffocate and they will eventually die. The anaerobic conditions can promote growth of bacteria which produces toxins deadly to aquatic organisms, birds and mammals. So these anaerobic conditions promote the growth of bacteria which produces toxins which are deadly to aquatic organisms, birds and mammals. All this eventually leads to the degradation of aquatic ecosystem and death of its organisms. It often leads to change in animal and plant population, degradation of water and habitat quality. Next is harmful algal blooms. Algae or phytoplankton are microscopic organisms that can be found naturally in coastal waters. They are major producers of oxygen and food for many of the animals that live in these waters. When environmental conditions are favorable for their development, these cells may multiply and rapidly form high numbers of cells, and this is known as algal bloom. So these algae or phytoplankton are the major producers of oxygen and food for many animals that live in water. When environmental conditions are favorable for the development of this phytoplankton or algae, these cells may multiply rapidly and form high numbers of cells, and this is known as harmful algal blooms. A bloom often results in a color change in the water. Algal blooms can be any color, but the most common ones are red or brown. These blooms are commonly referred to as red or brown tides. Most algal blooms are not harmful because some produce toxins and do affect fish, birds, marine mammals and humans. These toxins may also make the surrounding air difficult to breathe. These are known as harmful algal blooms. So these harmful algal blooms result in the color change of water and it is referred to as red or brown tides. And most algal blooms are not harmful, but some produce toxins that do affect fish, birds, marine mammals and humans. The toxins may also make the surrounding air difficult to breathe, and this is known as harmful algal blooms. This was all for today's class. Now we will discuss some MCQs. First question. Which one of the following is not a site for in situ method of conservation of flora? A. Biosphere Reserve, B. Botanical Garden, C. National Park and D. Wildlife Sanctuary. So the correct answer is option B, Botanical Garden. Next question. Consider the following statements. First statement. Biodiversity is normally greater in the lower latitudes as compared to higher latitudes. Second statement. Along the mountain gradients, biodiversity is normally greater in the lower latitudes as compared to higher altitudes. Lower altitudes as compared to higher altitudes. Which one of the following statements is or are correct? Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2 and option D neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer is option C. Both statements are correct. Third question. Two important rivers, one with its source in Jharkhand, known by different name in Odisha, and another with its source in Odisha, merge at a place only a short distance from the coast of Bay of Bengal before flowing into the sea. This is an important site of wildlife and biodiversity and a protected area. Which one of the following could be this? Option A. Bhitarkanika, option B. Chandipur Onsi, option C. Gopalpur Onsi and option D. Simlipal. The correct answer is option A. Bhitarkanika. Fourth question. A sandy and saline area is the natural habitat of Indian animal species. The animal has no predators in that area, but its existence is threatened due to the destruction of its habitat. Which one of the following could be that animal? A. Indian wild buffalo, B. Indian wild ass, C. Indian wild boar and D. Indian gazelle. The correct answer is B. Indian wild ass. The Himalayan range is very rich in species diversity. Which one of the following is the most appropriate reason for this phenomenon? A. It has a high rainfall that support luxuriant vegetative growth. B. It is a confluence of different biogeographical zones. C. Exotic and invasive species have not been introduced in this region. D. It has less human interface. The correct answer is option B. It has a confluence of different biogeographical zones. So this was all for today's class. Thank you and have a nice day.